welcome back to episode 3 of Afters with Joe and Chelsea.
Thank you so much for joining us last week for episode 2.
Yeah.
The Snooze or Lose quiz. We hope you enjoyed yourselves or at the very least learned something interesting about why it's so important that we do sleep.
Charles learnt something interesting that she is a loser and I'm a winner.
Oh.
Oh.
So that's my rage there. I'm like.
So, you introducing?
Yes, sorry. So this week, as promised, we're going to delve a little bit deeper into strategies that we've put in place to help us improve our sleep and tips and tricks that you can use to hopefully give you better sleep.
Yeah, so we, as we keep saying every episode, you're going to get bored of us saying this, but we are not the experts. We are normal, average, I'm an average Joe, average day people, but we really want to kind of bridge that gap between the scientists and the average day person. So we're going to go into what's worked for us. You can take things from that and maybe implement it yourself as well. So some of the things that we both have discussed and read about and listened to and watched are around the bedtime routine, so like your sleep hygiene. So what you can be doing or what you are doing before you go to sleep that can have a massive impact on the quality of your sleep, basically.
For example?
So for example, how you are setting up your room before you go to sleep. So things like the temperature or the light or the comfiness of your bed, your actual bedtime routine can have a massive impact. So
Okay, so I'm getting ready to go to bed. In fact, I've just got home from work.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna cook dinner, maybe watch something, go to bed. What do I need to do to my bedroom and how long before?
So your bedroom specifically, for people that are living in the Middle East like us, we are in Dubai at the moment.
Yeah.
We are very fortunate that we have air conditioning, so we have temperature controlled rooms, so we can set it to exactly what temperature we want. Now, before this self-growth journey, I didn't really think about that as a factor that can affect your sleep. So the science explains that the average body temperature, also the average temperature of a room that is optimal for sleep is actually 18.5 degrees Celsius, which I can see in your eyes is terrifying as someone who hates the cold.
Yeah, which I do.
You do. But when you are going to sleep, your room temperature, 8.5 degrees, is that optimal level, but when you get into your bed, you're actually going to be warmer.
Yeah.
Because the temperature of the bed is warm.
So this is the thing for me. So I hate that period when you walk into the bedroom and you're getting ready for bed and you have to get changed and all the rest of it, and it's freezing, even more so because I feel the cold. But I have to admit, being in bed with the room at that temperature, I very rarely have to fling the duvet off or get really hot. I generally spend the entire night under the duvet.
So as the science kind of tells us from last episode, your body temperature will drop from 1 to 2 degrees when you sleep. So you need your bed to be warm. So you are going to have that external temperature lower. But when your bedroom is too warm or too hot, it's not going to get to that optimum temperature when you're sleeping. So people at home can probably agree, some of your worst night sleeps are when you're too hot.
Yeah.
Way too hot. Obviously too cold is the same as well. If you get the temperature wrong and you go way colder. We recently went to New Zealand and got a camper van. Shout out to the Juicies out there. And we were very, very unprepared for how cold it was going to be in some of our sleep. Well, I was. some of our sleep was very, very bad because you're too cold. So it can go either way. But people at home, shout outs to people that have had those heat waves when it happens in the UK and around the world, and you're not prepared for it with a fan or an air-conditioned room. Your sleep is terrible because you're too hot and your body temperature can't regulate itself to sleep.
Okay, so bedroom set if you can at optimal temperature. So everyday person lives in the UK, not in the Middle East, and they aren't lucky enough to have aircon.
Yeah.
What can we do to try and get that room down before we go to bed?
Yeah, so depending on what time of year it is, like at the moment it's October, so it's probably still quite warm because our seasons are all over the place now because of global warming. But the little tips and tricks you can use, you've got buying an electric fan. You have got, and with that as well, putting ice water or very cold water in front of the fan so it blows that cold air around the room. Obviously ventilation from opening the windows, obviously trying to keep the creep crawlies out. Things like putting ice packs around the room, on the bed before you go to sleep. Obviously don't use ones that are going to create condensation because you don't want a wet bed. Keeping the doors open so the ventilation's coming through. Things like that are going to allow the room to be colder than if you had all the windows shut, the curtains open all day, the sun being
in the UK as well, it is easier just to open a window because like 9 times out of 10 it is cold.
yeah. But if you are fortunate enough to have air conditioning in your homes, it's a great way to
degrees.
Great way to do it.
Okay, fab. So the room is set up. To the temperature.
Temperature's sorted.
What's next?
So you're going to be looking at, we'll go for a few things here. If you're looking at the darkness of your room, so that's probably more when you're actually going to sleep, but before that, way before you even get into bed, you can start helping yourself out.
So this is an interesting one because let's talk about specifically in the bedroom. We used to live in Qatar, where we lived was just everything was lit up. So, and the curtains were rubbish. So we would go to bed and it never got fully dark, even at the darkest time of night because of all the lights everywhere.
Light pollution.
And then obviously the sun rising consistently, which is good because you know it allows you to get into a rhythm with your sleep. However, we just never got that full darkness of sleep, so our circadian rhythms never really got in their natural rhythm. So in Qatar, it would be pretty much dark in the lounge. When we'd go to bed, we'd watch Netflix, but pretty much everything would be turned off. And then we'd come to bed like pretty much asleep. I would use an eye mask. You weren't too.
Well, it took a while, but eventually you had to just deal with it,
But then there's an element of getting used to that. And then we came to Dubai and the curtains are completely blackout.
They're epic.
Which is great, when you're going to bed, fantastic. But then you're not getting the natural sunrise.
Natural light.
So we've then had to, well, you're okay because, you know, you're getting up and you're going out. I obviously work at home. So having that motivation to get up in the dark.
Which, let's face it, everyone in the UK has to do in the winter.
They have to do in the winter, yes. So then it's like, what do we do? Because we've now had to adapt to a completely different room environment. And for me, it's a lot harder because I relied on that sunrise and I'm used to waking up in the light. And so we actually found a light alarm clock.
We can put some links to where you can get those.
Which is a suggestion for people who some people, I've spoke to a couple of people who get anxiety. They need a blackout room, but then they get anxiety when they wake up that they've missed the sunrise, or they're up too late, or they've slept too long.
Yeah.
And actually using these kind of alarm clocks where you can set it to the time and it starts to light the room up as the sun would, maybe that also then helps reduce the anxiety of what time is it when you wake up, and you're not having to then look at your phone, light pollution, look at a clock. It's,
the one we've got as well, it plays noises of your choice, so you've chosen the bird setting. The light doesn't just go bright straight away, it starts on a really low brightness, dimness, and then it starts to build as the time that you've set it. Obviously it's not ideal because it's not the natural sunlight, but
it is a
will
solution.
then gradually wake you up, so then you can open the curtains and have the natural light. But that's definitely one thing that is going to help improve your sleep. We didn't really have a lot of choice unless we wanted to go out and buy blackout curtains, which we didn't want to. So we just had to deal with the fact that the light pollution was there and kind of battle that as best we could. You obviously got your eye mask. I kind of just started to adapt to it, but that has a massive impact on your sleep. Like it will affect how well you go to sleep or get to sleep, but also affect your quality of sleep as well. And just on that as well, that's in the bedroom, but before you go to sleep, we start to read these things in Matthew Walker's book, in Stan Rodsky's book, but also by a guy called Johan Hari's book, Stolen Focus, around limiting your light before you go to sleep. So you can get these things now where you have a timer on all the lights in your home which start to dim or turn them down at certain times. So
or you can just switch them off if you don't have that.
Like we do.
Like we do.
So your brain starts to regulate the time better, and your circadian rhythm starts to match it, saying, okay, it's now getting to that point where we need to, your body's like, right, we need to increase the adenosine to make you more drowsy and go to sleep. Whereas, and this is another thing as well, we are normal people. We are not people that are going to say, no, you can't watch anything 3 hours before you go to sleep, because it's not realistic.
No.
Everyone's life now, everyone's got very busy jobs. They need that downtime with their partners, with their families, to watch something on TV, watch Netflix, children play on games, whatever, but in a realistic time frame. So me and you will watch Netflix probably about 20 minutes before we go to sleep, because then we'll go and do our bedtime routine. But it's getting the winds in where you can. So we turn our lamps off before.
Yeah, so it will be dark.
So there'll only be one screen that we're watching. On our screens we put the, what's it called, the screen setting on
the orange light.
Orange light one,
Yeah.
so it limits the amount of blue light that's emitting on your eye surfaces, so it's going to make you.
And one thing we've had to start doing as well is, because it's so dark when we are watching our Netflix, we then go to bed and we just have a really dim lamp on.
Yeah.
So we're not kind of going from dark to light, we're keeping it at a constant.
Yeah.
So there's no shock of.
And in episode 2, I mentioned about when that final Netflix episode finishes, I just feel so tired, and I just want to be in bed ready going to sleep.
Yeah.
But half the time in Qatar and other places, you then go into a bathroom and you turn the light on, it's a really bright light, and it gets you awake again. And that's where I feel like it was impacting my sleep, because I'm tired, and now I've got to go and brush my teeth, which is waking me up. I've got to turn the light on, which is waking me up. You wash your face sometimes, that probably wakes you up.
Every night, thank you very much.
So it's like you've got into that routine and you're going to go against it again. So it's trying to limit the white light and blue light, that is coming out of your screens and your bulbs around the house. So candlelight's a good option.
Yeah,
light candles in your bathroom.
And I think as well, like if you're struggling to sleep, one of the biggest things you can do to help yourself is light.
Yeah.
And it works both ways. So starting to dim the light on an evening before you go to bed, but then when you wake up, for example, if you're trying to get into a routine of being up at a certain time, when you're awake, all of the lights on, so there's no going into a dim kitchen, like you know, all the main lights, so your brain starts to, which hormone is it? Okay, we'll get back to you on that one. But that's, you know, that's again biological, isn't it? So your light is a huge thing and directly affects your circadian rhythm. So I'd probably say that is the biggest tip if you're trying to improve your sleep, is really think about the amount of light on an evening and again in the morning.
So, your listeners at home are probably going to pick this up as well. Is it circadian rhythm or is it circadian rhythm? What have you been saying?
I can't remember. Circadian rhythm? Circadian
No,
rhythm?
it's spelled C-I-R-C-A-D-I.
Say it. How do you pronounce it?
Circadian rhythm.
Circadian rhythm. Okay.
We'll let people at home vote.
Oh, that's a good one.
Create a poll. Who's
Yeah,
right?
we'll create a poll.
Obviously, I'm going to be right again. We'll let the listeners decide. So, darkness or light, temperature. Do you want to maybe mention about caffeine?
Yeah, I think we touched on this on the last episode as well, but it is such an important one because it directly links to how well you sleep. So you could have a cup of coffee on an evening and go to sleep, but what your brain is actually doing is not what it should be doing to cleanse the body and the brain. It's more of a sedation. They say it takes 12 hours for caffeine to exit the body for you to fully digest it.
So it's got a half-life of 6 hours,
And also some people are more tolerant and less tolerant. So there are actually tests you can do if you are really, really interested in the topic of caffeine and how it affects your sleep.
Something really interesting about it as well is that one of the sleep experts, Matthew Walker, talks about he is very pro caffeine or coffee. Sorry,
because it does have
let me get that right.
Health benefits.
Not pro caffeine, he's pro coffee. So caffeine is in coffee, caffeine's in Red Bull, things like that.
Huge
in some dark chocolate.
Benefits.
But he is very pro coffee because of the benefits. But he doesn't like caffeine in terms of what it does to your brain.
So he's had the test done. And he's not very absorbent of caffeine, which means it takes him longer than 12 hours. So he chooses to have decaf for that reason.
So the coffee is very, very good for you. It's a bean. It's got all these immune boosting benefits. Antioxidants, from the coffee bean plant. But the caffeine in it is the issue, and the problem being as well with all these different energy drinks that are being sold in the shops that are again affecting your sleep. The
high caffeine.
It's not good for you, is it? It's everywhere. I think alongside that, your alcohol consumption.
I was dreading this bit, but we are going to have to talk about it, aren't we?
Something as well that some of these scientists talk about as well is saying that you can't just say you're not going to take any of these things, because you will literally not be able to do anything with your life.
It's moderation.
It's moderation, right? Like
understanding what works for you and what benefits you want.
We are from a very British culture of every celebration, every event is fueled and kind of associated with alcohol, which I think the more we've gone on this self-growth journey is very eye-opening and making us question it and consider it a lot more. Obviously we live in the Middle East now, we live in Dubai, so it's it's not readily available and it's a lot more expensive. So we've found that we have significantly consumed less alcohol living in the Middle East than we do in places where
because you can't just pick it up at a supermarket.
No.
But I would say it is still
things,
pretty available.
Yeah, it is. It's very where you want
but
to
you
go.
just have to spend more money.
Yeah, but what we found, or what I found from this self-growth journey, is the effect it does have on your body when you're going to sleep, on the effect it has on your sleep, and there is really no way around it. Like, if you drink a certain amount of alcohol, I think over 2 units, 1.8 units, things like that, it will start to have an effect on your sleep.
Yeah.
And you just have to accept that when you are drinking alcohol, your sleep isn't going to be
But then there's a limit, isn't there? Because that sleep that you're deprived of, there is no getting that back.
No, it's not.
So the more sleep that you miss out on, you become sleep deprived, and you get into a sleep debt. And there is only so much that catching up can help. You've already lost out on those benefits of it resetting your brain and your body, and that is what you miss out on. You don't get that. But you can have a nap or have a few more hours the next night, but you're still always going to be in a sleep debt. Which is quite scary when you think about like how much you drink at uni, for example.
Yeah, it is massive. So if you are wanting to have a excellent night's sleep, you need to avoid alcohol, because it's sedation, it's not sleep. So
when these doctors are maybe saying, how many units of alcohol do you drink?
That's probably
maybe
mine.
Don't drink throughout the week. What they're trying to say is it's affecting your sleep, so just maybe have a glass or 2 on a weekend.
And the people out there that are having that alcohol as a way to go to sleep or get to sleep after a long day, or just be aware that that isn't the sleep you need. It's the sleep without alcohol that is natural, without any sedation happening.
Okay, so improving quality of sleep.
Well, I've got one more that I think is a really good tip.
Okay, and then we'll round it up.
Yeah.
Okay.
One tip that I've found that a lot of people talk about is, and I am so guilty of not doing this, we've all been there when we've tried to go to sleep and we start to overthink things, and there's something on our mind, or we start listening for something, or we just can't get to sleep. So instead of walking out and trying to get up and do something else, I always try and plough through it, and like, I'm going to fall asleep in a minute, and you start watching your clock, or you start checking your phone, and that is the worst thing you can do in that situation, because you are not going to get to sleep, because your mind is starting to focus on why you're not sleeping. You start to question yourself, and you start to worry about, I'm not going to get enough sleep for work or whatever. So one of the best tips that they talk about, and I've only ever done this once, you're better at this than me, is if within 30 minutes you have not fallen asleep, you need to get out of that room where you're sleeping and go and do another activity that is going to try and increase that drowsiness and make you sleep. So something like reading a book, or meditating, or drawing, or colouring in.
Stan Rodsky talks about some brain drowsy activities that you can do, which basically sends your brain to sleep.
The whole counting sheep is a myth as well. That doesn't happen. But the one thing you did say, isn't it, where you try and really think about an experience or go on a journey in your mind where you have to pick out the most specific detail that you're living there. So like the senses, like what does it smell like, what does it feel like, you're walking through a field, what can you see, and that journey in your mind is going to switch off that anxiety of you not getting to sleep. So that is probably one of the biggest things, because we've all been there, right? When you can't sleep.
And it's obviously worth mentioning as well that there are sleep issues, like there are people that cannot sleep.
Oh yeah, insomnia.
Yeah, and you,
serious, right?
it is very serious. And if you ever feel like you're at that stage, definitely seek medical advice.
Professional help, yeah.
Because and pills in that situation are not great. So if you do feel like you're having sleep apnea, what's it called? Deprivation.
Sleep deprivation,
Insomnia. Just taking pills is not a long-term solution, and it's quite scary, the kind of data behind that.
Yeah.
So if you do feel like you're having any serious issues, then please stop listening to our podcast and go and get some professional help.
We're gonna put summarize our best tips and tricks and hints for getting a good night's sleep, from the routine down to what you can be doing throughout the day.
Yeah, we're going to link on our Instagram, and there's going to be links to books and other Instagram pages, etc.
Yeah, where you can get some more information on it, and obviously feel free to ask questions or send in things around that as well.
We actually have some questions that we're going to answer, as promised.
We do, yeah.
From Instagram and YouTube.
Yeah.
Okay, shall I start? Shall I ask the first question?
Yeah, first one.
Okay. So what inspired you to delve into the topic of sleep, and why is it so important for the everyday person?
I think it's important for the everyday person because we all sleep. Every human being sleeps. Every person will do it from the day they're born all the way to the day they die. And that is, I don't know how people don't get affected by that. I think it's just astonishing that we don't get taught it in school, and knowing now what I know now, I feel like I have a duty to share that with everyone and show how important it is for every single person on this planet to get a good night's sleep, and what the benefits are, and definitely share what the negatives are and what can happen to you if you don't get enough sleep. So I think that's why.
Definitely. And I think as well, like, you know, why is it important for everyday person? It's important for everybody.
Yeah.
Like, it is literally our lifeline, and I think if there's anything you take from this, it is that the most effective thing you can do to reset your body, your brain, is to sleep.
Yeah.
There isn't anything else that is as effective. Take time.
Okay, this is from someone. They are a shift worker, so they haven't really specified what the job is, but I'm assuming it's someone who's in, like, a doctor or
Or shift
worker. Yeah. They've said they're a bit worried about their sleep pattern, and they're asking, is there any advice that we have for what they can do to try and help combat the difference in the sleep hours they're getting, so they're not sleeping at the right time of the sun, for example. So what can they do to what can they do to help them?
I think that's got to be like synthetic if you can't have it naturally. So for example, someone that works during the night and is asleep during the day, I think that whole light thing would make a huge difference.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how they would deal with noise if they have a family or not.
Earplugs?
But earplugs, having blackout curtains, using a light, alarm clock.
I'd love to hear from people at home who actually wakes up with both earplugs in their ear at the end of the night. Because I definitely don't. Who wakes up halfway through the night and you're like, I've got one, I'm like, oh no. Savouring it.
Where's the other one? Oh,
it's in the dark and
yeah, I think as well, maybe that whole, I'm going to say light, that's probably, it links directly to your circadian rhythm. So maybe when they wake up, obviously it's dark outside. Yeah. So trying to expose themselves to as much light as possible,
so
rather than it being them doing everything in the dark.
Too much sensory stuff.
And also, I read this thing as well. It might have even been Stan Rodsky, not Matthew Walker, which recommended it for old people that have sleeping problems. Is actually when it gets to, if they're trying to spend longer in bed, actually wearing sunglasses in the morning,
Yes.
so it dims the light out for longer.
Yeah.
So that could also be a suggestion for a shift worker who is trying to go to sleep after their night shift. They could actually use things like sunglasses to dim the light on their way home, and then make sure everything's pretty dark when they get back. That's a difficult question without context, isn't it?
Yeah.
Just see if there's one more.
One more, yeah.
What's your message to individuals who prioritise work and social activities over sleep?
It's a tricky one. I think we've all been there, haven't we, when we're wanting to stay awake later and socialise with friends. And
I think though there has to be balance, doesn't there?
oh, of course.
Like for example, if you're going out on a weekend and it's one night in, I don't know, 3 weeks, I think you could probably go, do you know what, I'm going to go enjoy myself. But if you're continually prioritising work over sleep, and then on the weekends maybe you're not catching up on that sleep, you're socialising, the message I think would be balance, and please look into sleep, because it's an eye-opener, even for like how you function day to day, I think.
Yeah, I think that links into the regularity of your sleep, doesn't it? If you're thinking that, and I was like this as well, you can have a bad night's sleep, or you can sleep less hours throughout the week and then catch up on it on the weekend by having a massive lay-in. It doesn't work like that. So if you are like prioritising your social life or your work over sleep, then something is going to have to give, and that will most likely, unfortunately, be your health at that point. So I think we all, if we're completely honest with ourselves, we value our health over anything else when we are in a state of bad health. But I think a lot of us get lost in the fast-paced world we live in, and you want to go to that show, you want to work that extra hour, stay in the office that bit longer because you want to prove yourself. Or
amazing quote from Dr. Mindy, which I think is really relevant to this as well. Make time for your health before you're forced to take time for your illness.
Oh, nice. Deep, man.
Deep.
Very good.
Which is, it's so true, isn't it? Like I've been quite ill recently, and it's the worst thing when you have to take that time to recover, and you just...
And you can really prevent that by getting a good night's sleep. So
and putting things in place.
Be a human being, live a little, balance, but balance it out. Don't.
And also, too much sleep is also bad for you. Is true.
Everything's bad for you.
Everything's bad for you. So there really is that balance, and getting that balance is really important, because too much is also bad for you.
And every single of us is different, so it's not if one side doesn't feel.
No.
Just find out what works for you.
What works for you? What's your optimal sleep time?
But as soon as one of those main health pillars starts to go, you need to look inside yourself at, is it my diet? Is it my sleep? Is it exercise, etc.?
Yeah. Like something that's quite funny, like from our relationship, is one of the things that has affected my sleep is your snoring. And we seem to have developed this like mechanism now where, like, even if I just like touch you the tiniest bit, you like turn around and back to sleep, and obviously close your mouth. And it's got to a point now where all I have to do is just like kind of tap you, and sometimes in the morning, like, you've got no recollection of it whatsoever. It's like almost like part of the unconscious now, like, oh, I'm snoring.
Yeah.
Turn around,
programmed in.
Which is not really a tip because some people can't just be tapped, can they? But it's quite funny that we've been able to kind of get into a rhythm where I don't necessarily have to disrupt your sleep and you can stop disrupting mine.
I think we do laugh about it, but I think that part of a relationship is so important to talk about. Like your sleep, going to sleep. If you are not happy where you're sleeping, in terms of like, you might disagree on one of the kind of tips to get to sleep, the light or the sound, or I think you've got to agree with your partner, or
you have to have the discussion
and share what isn't working. I remember like when I was younger, like my mum moaning about my dad snoring, and my dad did snore really loudly, but that can literally break up couples, like that can break up your marriage. So if you're not talking about it,
and like for example, you like to read before bed, which means a light. So we've had to come to the agreement that it's a dim light, so we put like a t-shirt over the lamp to make it even dimmer. So you've still got that light to read, but it's not increasing my light intake.
And also I took on board that my snoring was keeping you awake, so I went and did some research on a different pillow I could buy, and that pillow I got from IKEA, although it doesn't completely alleviate snoring, but it has definitely made an improvement. I'm not snoring half as much as I used to because of the curvature in the pillow.
There's also no partnership here with IKEA, so there are other cushion brands available.
We just said that. But yeah, just having that discussion, I think it's the best tip for me. If you live with someone else.
If you're a couple, the best tip, just speak to each other what works for both of you, because what works for one person might not work for the other, and come into some sort of agreement on how you can best optimise your sleep.
To round off this episode, we've got 3 things that are our top bits of advice to give you. Your first main one was what you said.
Just like, I think just an awareness and just remembering that sleep is our lifeline. And it is the most effective thing, not one of the things, it is the most effective thing you can do to reset your brain and your body. And I think once you start to understand that, you can open your mind to more information about sleep and what you can do to improve your sleep, because it's your lifeline, isn't it?
I think sleep is one of the main contributing factors to preventing illness and disease. So preventing those Alzheimer proteins that build up in your brain, in your body when you don't get sleep, helping you regulate your sex hormones, your blood sugar levels, decreasing inflammation, all these amazing benefits that you get from getting a good night's sleep are endless.
Building your immune system.
And then that will obviously lead on to you living longer. Longevity, the quality of your life.
The more sleep, the longer life. So I suppose in some aspects that I'll sleep when I'm dead, you could also sleep while you're alive and live a bit longer.
Quote Chelsea et al. 2023.
Yes.
Nice. But yeah, thank you so much for following us on these last 3 episodes on sleep.
Hope you enjoyed it, picked up some interesting facts at the very least.
And like we said, we've got all the different links to all these different
We'll be
scientists.
dropping that on our Instagram if you want to.
For more information.
So, very exciting. We are moving on to gut health.
Bit of a buzzword at the moment, isn't it?
It
Around
is
the
a
world,
bit,
and literature and podcasts.
It's exciting though, because we've been on our gut journey for probably about a year now.
9, 10 months.
It's just been incredible, hasn't it? How we feel, the journey we've been on. Obviously, we're going to delve into all of this in the next 3 or 4 podcasts, But in the meantime, if you're interested in gut health, Dr. Mindy and Dr. Tim Spector on Instagram are great people to follow. Loads and loads and loads of information, and we will help break all of that down and let you guys know what's worked for us in, you know, normal day-to-day life. And also our Instagram, lots of food tips, gut healthy foods, and links to recipes that we have created over the past 9-10 months. Yeah, so really excited about this one. Gut health will be the next topic, and we can't wait to share everything with you.
Yeah, so thank you once again for listening, watching at home, wherever you are. We shall see you next week.
Yeah. And just quickly, if you do have any other questions about sleep, please feel free to message us or email us at any time.
See you soon.
See you soon.